with day 2 of India Mobile Congress 2023. First of all, I would like to, share with you the topic that we are going to have the discussion on. So the topic for today is Unveiled Horizons of Industry 4.0, Benchmarking the Adoption. With this, I would like to call on stage our esteemed guest. I'll start with Mr. Sushil Kumar, DDG, TEC, Department of Telecommunication. Next we have is Sable Roy, Senior VP Sales, Bharti Airtel. Joining him we have Vinish Bawa, Head of Enterprise, Web Scale and Emerging Business, Nokia. Further we have Mr. Karan Nagpal, Promoter, Mentor, Sensorize. I also call upon Mr. M. Arumugam, MD, Broadline. And to take the proceedings ahead, I would like to introduce you with our moderator, Mr. Sushant Sabra, Partner KPMG. So request you to take this ahead.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Great to have you all here, and I feel privileged to be here on this panel today, where we have the industry stalwarts who are going to share their thoughts on this subject. It's not every day that you are on a stage where you have various facets of the industry represented, right? So we have a view from the overall government and regulatory side, we have a view from the operator side, we have multiple views coming in together. So I'm sure this will give a holistic picture. Just to get the ball rolling here, while we have been talking about Industry 4.0 for many years now, and there are estimates about the actual value creation from there. Depending on whom you ask, people say that the total investments in Industry 4.0 are going to be about $200 billion, give or take. And the economic value it's going to create in the end economy is going to be in the range of $1 trillion plus, right? And not just that in terms of the economic value, the view which also clearly comes out is how can you use Industry 4 and digitization to help create world-leading companies out of the emerging economies. So why shouldn't the next large unicorn, let's say in auto digitization or EV digitization space, leveraging Industry 4.0 come in from India, right? So I think from opportunity landscape, everybody is fully aligned. What we would be keen to hear from our panelists today is that how is that entire opportunity landscape shaping up? What are the areas which need attention? We have many of our participants here who are keen to adopt I4. So how do we go after that? And what are the various nuances which need to be kept in mind as we are on this journey? So without taking too much time, I would request the opening remarks from all our esteemed panelists in terms of how do you see the entire opportunity landscape panning out? And if you have to call out one key theme, what would that be? So with that, maybe we'll start from here and we'll go on from there.
Well, I think I'm Arumugam. I've been in Industry 4.0 for the last 6 years. I've been working with Siemens technology, and we've been implementing it across world. So I always thought that why not we build a center of excellence in India. So my government came forward. So in Tamil Nadu, we established a large center of excellence, Industry 4.0 with Siemens, and this is encompass all the essential part of Industry 4.0. I think we have done many test cases which with India and multinational companies, and our experience now, India is a very potential country where Industry 4.0 is going to rule a lot. I think in terms of world landscape, I think Europe and China has caught up very fast. America is a bit slow. America is largely depends on India, and our strength in Industry 4.0 is going to have a huge progress in terms of implementation in US as well. So with this in mind, we started this, and we were able to train about 67,000 people in the last 8 months. So I could see a large number of youngsters in particular, and many of the industrial workforce would like to learn Industry 4.0. Now what happens is Industry 4.0 has become a sort of mix of technology where not one job, it's multiple line of work. People should learn to be part of the Industry 4.0 implementation. So many of them coming and learning. So I did see a huge potential for India. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm Saibal. I am taking care of the business part for the B2B for Airtel business for North and Eastern India. And more than a decade in Airtel and more than 3 decades in the industry now. The crowd or perhaps the audience would think that what is Airtel doing in Industry 4.0? Because Industry 4.0, how is it making such sense of Industry 4.0? Let me tell you what is Industry 4.0. Industry 4.0 is the fourth industrial revolution that is kicking off all across. And I'm sure on the first day, yesterday, we must have heard the Honorable Prime Minister also putting that impetus on industry, the manufacturing vertical, which he wants to perhaps, we become a biggest hub in the coming years. And also for geopolitical reasons, this is definitely going to be a biggest hub actually in coming years. So with that advent coming into perspective, the biggest play for us is as Airtel is that, of course, Industry 4.0 cannot be completed without communication. For anything and everything for Industry 4.0 to propel and perhaps take shape, the communication is the very, very essential perspective. And second piece, of course, is how do you do the data assimilation and data aggregation, which you look at. So all these particular factors leading to Airtel definitely has a big part and big play to roll out. Today, you name the industry perspective, all the manufacturing vertical or perhaps the organizations in the country, we will be touching their lives anywhere and everywhere because everybody uses a cell phone, that's fair. But apart from that, WAN connectivity and across, which we are definitely taking care of. But if we have to do Industry 4.0, the basic essence of Industry 4.0 is what you would like to do is you would like to have enhance your quality of the product, enhance your productivity, reduce your downtime, and reduce your cost of operations. These are the 4 primary objectives of Industry 4.0. Of course, then it will fall in what all and how all you do. We'll keep that discussion once we get into the deeper things of it. But of course, what we can do is with the advent of 5G, I see a big acceleration in the thought processes and perhaps getting into the ground level to get the seeds out of this Industry 4.0. Because presently the Industry 4.0 is in a shape, it is in a perspective that, there are splinters of Industry 4.0 happening. But if you have to do complete Industry 4.0, then of course there are a lot of things and cohorts have to be created. And the industry, which is the OEM industry, the operator industry, as well as the government, all have to come together, join hands and make things happen. That was my thought process.
Hi, I'm Vinish Bava. I handle what is called as the enterprise and web scale business for Nokia in India. And Nokia, as you all would have heard, we historically, obviously, we had mobile phones, but now we are the leading provider for the telecom solutions. So within that, I think for us, when we say Industry 4.0, there's not one definition as such. If we talk about any industry, they have Industry 4.0 as a different version. When we talk about, mining, ports, everybody has a different definition of 4.0. But in simple terms, it is a combination of automation of things like IoT, things like it can have blockchain, things like it can have automated connectivity, everything together is what we call as Industry 4.0. Things would change, the use cases would change per industry, right? So the market cap and the potential of 4.0 is, we've been talking about, I think, last 2-3 IMCs as well, and we all know that there is no dearth of potential of this thing. Today, when we talk to different customers of ours, different enterprises, governments, anybody, this is the biggest talking point. In some form and shape, Industry 4.0, automation, private networks, everything, this comes as a main discussion point. So that is the change which has happened over the last few years. It's increasing more and more. The adaptability of this is something which is matter of time. I think some industries are fast forwarding, some industries are slow in adapting, but there is some form of adaptation as well. In fact, I'll give you an example in Medanta Hospital, which was an industry that we thought would be slow in adopting all this, but there are departments that are testing robotic surgery already. Right, I have a known doctor in vascular surgery. They have a robot doing this surgery using some kind of automation. So that's Industry 4.0 for that hospital. Right, even for us, we even talk about residences at home. It's not an industry, but our home, and most of us use so many devices, everything at home. It is technically a 4.0 evolution of how things at home are operating. You have a Wi-Fi router, you have an ONT, everything is automated, talking to each other, the TV is talking to the devices, everything. So that is a form and shape of something which has adopted Industry 4.0 for a residence as well. Right? Mining, ports. India is talking on this now, but if you talk about evolving, emerging markets like Africa, Latin America as well, there is huge adoption of all this in those countries. Mining, there is, I think, maximum mines adopting private networks, which is part of Industry 4.0, is in Latin America, and then followed by Africa as well. So they do see the advantages over there, whether be it security, whether be it safety of the, the miner inside. 1 minute of time saved of a miner is a minute or two of his life as well. So that's a use case for them to do this, automation in that mine. So these are the things that we are learning. We are talking to different customers over here. Indian government, I talk to a lot of these government agencies. They're talking about adopting Industry 4.0 or again these private networks in their centers like the parliaments or the different industrial cities that they are building. Each of the states are building. So that discussions are happening as we speak now. I think when we do next year, you will see various of this adopted and working in reality as well. And we are convinced that this is there to grow. And this is not, something for the future. This is happening today. Even at 4G and with 5G, it's going to be even more. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And you have given a very broad definition of the Industry 4.0, whether it is the office or the hospital or the smart factories. No doubt, Industry 4.0, it is one of the vertical of the Internet of Things domain. And IoT, it is the technology, it is a bunch of technologies like the sensor networks, the communication technology, whether it is cellular or non-cellular, this AI, ML, blockchain, then cloud computing, multi-edge computing and others. And these technologies are being used to create the smart infrastructure in all the verticals, and this smart infrastructure should be sustainable, and it will be sustainable if we are using the standards that the infrastructure which is created today, it should remain smart not only for the present generation but even for the future generation, whether it is a smart cities or the smart factories or the smart intelligent transport system. Like in the case of smart cities, if we see, suppose it remains smart only for 5 years, and after some time when the tender is over for the platform and new applications are to be integrated, and it is not practically possible to integrate those smart applications, then we cannot say that those solutions are sustainable. There are various challenges as defined by various standardization bodies, like the robust connectivity, that is one of the most important requirement. Then further, the interoperability and the open interfaces, the data sharing, that is one of the prime requirement. Then privacy and security, standardization and the domain knowledge. And a lot of work is being done at the international level and the in India also, ITU, ISO, IEC and other standardization bodies like 1M, 2M, they have created standards. Even artificial intelligence over things is the reality now. Now, in TEC, we have released around 20 technical reports, and the recommendations of these documents are being used to create the policies, framework, and the standards in not only in DOT, but in various other organizations like MORTH, BIS, and so many others. So, in MAUA also for the smart cities. So, Industry 4.0, we can adopt the various technologies, various emerging technologies to create the smart infrastructure. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. So I'm Karn Nagpal, president of Rosmata Group. I head strategy at Rosmata and Sensorize. So for us, Industry 4.0 is about data democratization, which is basically making data available to the relevant stakeholders remotely to make better decisions, whether it is to increase operating efficiency, have more control over quality, have more predictive maintenance, easier inventory and supply chain management, and so on, right? So it's not only about industry, like our esteemed colleagues also mentioned. It's about as you see around everything around you in your daily life, whether it be your smart watches, smart grid, smart meters, automotive telematics, everything today we feel has to be smart and connected. It is not a question of the future. It is about everything you do today has to be smart and connected. Uh, with that, everything is basically powered by three main things. IoT sensors, depending on what technologies we are using. Second is the M2M connectivity, which can be either wired, wireless, GSM. There are various options, also depending on a lot of other factors. And third is really the software platform that you use to ingest and use that data. Earlier, we used to use simple algorithms where you could set up parameters to action something based on certain actions already that took place. Now we are talking and using more and more AI and ML algorithms where we can use a lot more unstructured data to give us insights and help us make better decisions about that would not be possible through preset reporting formats, for example. So we feel in a more and more embedded, connected world, quite literally, even the embedded connectivity, embedded SIM form factor, to say, I think it is important for all of us to also keep our focus on interoperability and not to get walled into any proprietary technologies or networks and so on. So at Sensorize, what we provide is our cards, SIM cards, as well as our connectivity management platform is network agnostic, technology agnostic, and even form factor agnostic. We power more than 3 million automotives in India as well as globally. And I think the revolution is here to stay, and everything around us is going to get more and more connected.
Thank you. Thank you for these insights as opening remarks. I would like to pick on some of these as we go along in the panel. So my first question is to Mr. Kumar. You spoke a lot about multiple technologies. You also touched upon standards. Now, when we're looking at all these technologies like AI, IoT, blockchain, what is happening right now is that it's like a perfect storm, right? It's a change or evolution in one amplifies the change in the other. And in that sense, as each one of them are evolving at their own pace, it's just accelerating all the use cases. Just wanted your perspective on how do you see this entire convergence working out? And secondly, what are the core areas of value? And that's one area potentially people struggle with in terms of use cases or value areas.
Yeah, thank you. As I mentioned that IoT it is a bunch of technologies, and IoT, if we say it is a sensor network and the communication technology, it is being benefited by a number of technologies like artificial intelligence and machine learning and AI and IoT. Now it is being spoken AIoT, artificial intelligence over things, and a number of standards have been released by ITU in this domain. And even the AI on the sensors itself, on the ICs, AI has been created by a number of fab companies. The sensors are creating a large amount of data, and AI algorithms and machine learning can be used to analyze that data, because raw data has got no value, and we can create the intelligence by using these algorithms, and that intelligence can be used for various planning and operational activities. Now we come to the blockchain. The blockchain will provide data can be transmitted to the blockchain, which will provide a secure environment to the data, and no data can be tampered there. It can be added only. So this IoT, AI, and blockchain convergence will help in the development of the smart infrastructure in a big way. Then further it comes to the security and privacy. The security is very, very important for the devices as well as for the data. If data remains secured in the blockchain, but devices, if they are connected to the internet network and the devices are vulnerable, in that case, the entire network can be hacked. For this, we'll be having a large number of platforms having the devices connected with them. The manufacturers have to create the vulnerability management system and this firmware update over the air. These things are very important. Suppose some cameras becomes vulnerable in the smart cities, and there are around 1 million of cameras installed across the country. Then the platform should be able to find out the vulnerabilities in the cameras or the hacking incidences, and it should report to the manufacturers or the National Trust Center, NTC, some central entity, and it should be reported to the manufacturer. Manufacturers should develop the patch program and should update all the cameras across the country. So it is very important. Now we don't know how many cameras are vulnerable in the smart cities or smart homes. These things are very important. And there may be a large number of devices even in the homes, in the industries, which are not getting software updates. Once you are having the software, it may become vulnerable. And as long as the software becomes older and older, these are required to be updated. So security becomes very, very important in the industry, in the smart infrastructure, whether it is a smart grid or the smart factories or the smart homes, all are very important. Then interoperability and open interfaces, that is one of the primary requirement, because if we are not using the standardization, then our infrastructure will not remain smart for a long time. Further, 5G technology, as we mentioned, can be used for the captive network or the non-public network, and 3GPP has already released the specifications in release 15 and 16 for this. We can have the non-public network as well as the non-public network integrated with the public infrastructure. So all these networks can be created. 5G provides various features and like the URLLC and machine type communication, and in which we can connect large number of devices per square kilometer, and we can create the smart infrastructure in smart cities as well as in the smart factories in a much better way. So convergence of all these technologies will help in a big way in creating the smart infrastructure in various verticals across the country. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for laying out the land in terms of the opportunity. And I completely agree with you. Smart infrastructure, smart cities, they will get powered by the convergence that we have in mind. And just to take that thoughts forward in terms of realizing Industry 4.0, if I go to Mr. Roy, let's say there are organizations which are looking to adopt Industry 4.0. How do they get started? How do they make it real?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question, and perhaps that's a dilemma which all the industries are going through today. So, it's not an easy thing that I can give you a cookie cutter model of this. But what we can understand, perhaps Binish and me have been going into the marketplace for the last 2-3 years consistently. Before coming to this place, we were actually discussing and debating this perspective itself as to how do we proliferate this more, and what is the cookie cutter model to be done on that. So if I may say, and what we experience, and perhaps every market is different, let me tell you. An international space, if I see, there is a lot of deployment which has happened on Industry 4.0. And again, that particular, what has been done in international may not work from Indian markets, because Indian markets are different. And how do we make the changes? And what I see from experience is that there has to be a customization and accustom which has to be done. And the formula which I look at out here is that how do you make that particular thing happen, and what is the right step to do into? Because ultimately the benefits are all out here is collateral. People talk about collateral as a damage, but it is a collateral benefit which we're going to have once we create the network, all that. So what we generally want to do, there are two basic ingredients for Industry 4.0, and it's a journey. So when you talk about this journey, what you actually want to do is that there are two things. One is, what is the ultimate objective is that you want to understand the better behavior of your machine. That's the whole purpose, if I see in that conclusive line as such. But if we go do a backward integration on this particular perspective, is that how do we do this? Now, if we have to do, because in years, perhaps over these years, I started my career as a service engineer in also office automation, let me tell you. And we used to do preventive maintenance. And preventive maintenance was the buzzword. But today, I think the law of the land and perhaps in the telecom sector is coming, it's more predictive maintenance. And why predictive maintenance is because of the, overall energy or perhaps the equipment efficiency. So what we want to do with Industry 4.0 and why we want to do Industry 4.0 is, how do we get the equipment efficiency at the highest of levels? So for that, just preventive maintenance will not help us. So if we don't want to do only preventive maintenance, we have to do predictive maintenance. So for a predictive maintenance to happen, what is the particular, again, a backward integration we have to look at is, what is the data point? What is the point of inflection? And how do we arrive at that particular piece? So there is, this data has to lead us to an intelligent solution making and intelligent action making which is to happen. Now what will happen is, suppose, if I just give you an example, if there is an assembly line and it's a car manufacturing plant, the car production plant, if it goes down, say for 3 hours, which is unplanned, for every 2 minutes there's a car which is produced. So just imagine what is the loss which is going to be encompassed by that particular car manufacturer. 3 hours, that's a huge loss which is going to be there. Now, that's what I insist, what I was talking about is collateral benefit. If we know the present situation of the machine which is actually doing the production, if the vibration and the particular, the temperature of the machine is monitored in a real-time state. Please understand, that's a real-time state we have to look at. In the real-time state, if we monitor that, we know when the machine is going to go for a downtime. And if we get to know that, then of course we know that it can lead to a planned outage rather than an unplanned outage. So that's a big, big difference which will come in. That will add to our benefits here. Now, how do we do this? One is, if we get this particular sensor and the entire devices chain connected to each other, we get the data point out. Now, if you have to get the data point out as to when this particular thing is going to happen, we need to have a very optimal communication facilities within the plant. Today, we have perhaps not optimal, suboptimal communication facilities because a plant or a smart factory, it's a huge space. It's in acres and acres of land. Just to give you an example, and I can give you an example of Nokia's plant itself. I mean, that comes to my mind immediately. They have a plant in Chennai, near Chennai, which is 144,000 square meter is the land space. And out of that, if I have to connect this entire plant, it would take 56 APs to do it. 56 APs. Now with the communication facility of Airtel can do on a spectrum which is a license band spectrum, we can do it with 2 small cells. And of course, again, the other thing is that with the particular piece, and actually we have deployed it for Nokia plant, and this is on a 4G platform right now we're doing. So what actually happens is, this is a network which is created, which is completely secure too. So first, if I may connect the dots, first you need to have a robust communication platform. And second piece is, how do you get this data out? What is the meaningful data which you get into? For that, you have to do the AI ML, algorithm analysis, what data is coming out, which will give you a classical data, what to perhaps look into. So the predictability will come out of this, and the idling state of the machine will never happen. And it's a real-time measure which we are looking at, which will actually lead to a perspective that the downtimes are minimal, which I again go back to my first 4 points of Industry 4.0, where I'm looking at increase of production, increase of efficiency, and reduction of downtime, and reduction of costs. This is all leading to that particular piece. Now, this is, how do we do all this? This is a paraphernalia, and this is perhaps the process which we need to deploy. The most important piece here is all about, we are creating a value, not by just, we should not talk about technology here. Technology is definitely a via media, but what the value we are creating here. Perhaps and in the industrial sector, we are missing the particular piece, that what is the value we are creating. We are not looking at only costs.
maybe that particular landscape has to change, the thought process has to change, and the thought process change will only happen for the people who make the changes, which is the topmost layer. Once those topmost layer people get involved in this particular piece, I can tell you this is going to proliferate like big thing. And I can assure you, this is the basic formula. We can get into, various peeling of the onion. If I want to do, we can get into, tons of discussion on this. But this is going to be the formula which is going to be there. All perspective as such.
Perfect. No, I love the way you set out the course there. And two things which stood out for me. One is modularization of i4. When you said, it has to be pretty much cookie cutter, some sort of modularized i4 which can be taken to various. And the other one is, I like the concept about collateral benefit. We always talk about the negative side. What about the upside? So essentially, the what is called as the level 2 or level 3 impact of the technology change that you're putting through is not anticipated, and things build on each other. So those kind of benefits, when you start seeing after a while, classic example, for example, the India stack, where it started with and the kind of impact it has had. So that definitely, that clearly stood out for me, and the roadmap, the way you described in 3 layers. In fact, while you gave examples of manufacturing, let me take a view from Mr. Bawa. When we talk about smart factory, and that's always touted as the go-to thing when we're talking about Industry 4.0, how do you bring that to life when you're talking about a smart factory?
Sure. So it used to be a fancy word, smart factory. Nobody knew what it means. We've been talking about it for many years. So what we decided as Nokia is, globally there are so-called smart factories. We have one in Finland as well. So we thought we have a manufacturing plant in Chennai. Sebel just mentioned about it, the size, volume. It's an old Nokia radios get manufactured there. Very nice plant. It's very modern as well. We thought, let's use that as a place where we can actually build a smart factory, right? And I'll explain what it means. So we started off, that what all it can do. What are the problems and what are the key issues that the person who's running the factory and whose day-to-day job is to make sure that the equipment is, deployed or manufactured in time. What are the problems that they face? So we had this discussion, and then basis that we came up with solutions for it. And I'll give you 2-3 examples. There are many that I can talk about. But one, he said that, I have so much of manpower which is needed to go to the spare room and go and get spares all day. There's some problems happening, PCB is getting over, they have to go to the spare room, one person comes back and spare room is far off, right? These are large factories. Then there's some nut and bolt which is missing, again somebody goes. So manpower is, a lot of people are doing all this. There's time spent for just going to the spare room and coming back. We have AGVs in the factory as well. They were moving around using Wi-Fi technology. The AGVs were there, which were being used for small purposes, but not like really fancy. So when we put 4G deployed, and as he said, the 2 small cells and 4G solution, suddenly the AGVs, the speed of AGVs increases. There's no, they don't sort of jitter or they don't stop in the middle because of the technology, the way 4G works. So instead of the people going to the spare rooms, the AGVs with the software controlled model that, okay, here is the spare that I need. And those are the apps which were developed by 2 young, fresh college graduates that we hired and gave them that as a project. So they created certain apps controlling the AGV through app, and then using 4G technology, the AGVs were now going to the spare room and getting the, whatever spare that you needed all day. So now translate into savings. Now, if I give some statistics, and this is coming from the plant head, not salespeople like us, this was saving almost 30 to 35 kilometers of moving around all day, right? So this is the amount of saving that they did using this automation. So those people could be used for something different. So this is one clear example of automation of using just one spare room AGV, which was already there, just changing technology to a smart, smart way of working. That's one. Secondly, also when you have to put a new assembly line, there is this various assembly lines over there. Since there's so much wires, etc., you have to add equipment there. It was taking days and hours and weeks to sometimes do it. So now once you move to 4G and 5G is even better, just with 4G, 80% reduction in the time happened. So putting a new line was 80% less time or whatever it was taking earlier. That's again a real statistic that is given by the plant head over there to us, that this is some advantage that they've started getting. Even on the plant, when they were putting some PCBs there was so much manpower. Now all that is automated using 4G technology, and that is also helping them to do the board monitoring using the PCBs and connecting everything, that has also saved them around 30-40% in terms of the timing, and it is working perfectly well. So some statistics around the amount of time saved, the amount of efficiency improvements. Overall, the factory is evolved into really, really less people. Those people are doing some different work, and all this automation is happening. There are no wires there in the factory. So if you want to move one machine to another machine, there is just 0 wires there. So that just makes life easier. And some of the customers, when we talk to, that what do you want in a smart factory, they just hamari na sari taare hata do yahan se. It's like we don't need any wires here. That's a simple use case that somebody in Mahindra told us that I want to do right now. So and with Wi-Fi you can do it, but you cannot do it the way 4G does. 5G does even better. There's very less latency in 5G, so works even better. So these are evolution of things what is called as smart factories, and I think more and more things will evolve. One of the things that when we talk to startup community and we go to IISc, etc., is create more of such apps. Think about more of these. How do machines talk to each other? I don't know. If we don't know what kind of apps can help a factory, because the platform and technology is for a given. And as Eval also mentioned, technology is least of the problems right now. Right, with 4, 5, we even have a 6G demo, which is all this will keep on evolving. Technology will help, but it's the apps, it's the use cases. What is that one killer use case that can come which will help a factory even better to improve any efficiency, to improve any automation? That comes not by companies like us. That is done by really the startup community. Even 2 smart kids from college have thought about this, new apps which I'm talking about. So that's, I think, one request to the industry, or something that we really encourage a lot to do, to help us, help the industry create more of such use cases and apps, because technology for a smart factory is there, and smart can become even more smarter and smarter. That will going evolution that is there in the market. So yeah, that's a perfect example. Feel free to come to Chennai. Anybody, let us know. We love to host you. You should see a real working smart factory in India.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And a lot of these things resonated with us, because when we talk about these grand values, saying 1 trillion opportunity from I4, these are all the numbers which add up, right? So you mentioned about 80% reduction when you were deploying the entire factory, 30 to 40% reduction in time, 35 kilometers per day. All of these add up. And therefore, now we can see how the entire overall business case or the value case stacks up. So the point that you made about saying, let's get more innovators because there is already a platform here. Maybe would like to request thoughts from Mr. Nagpal here, right? And you're closest to this innovation as it is happening really in front of you, especially on the M2M side. If you want to, share your thoughts on how the entire use case and opportunity landscape is expanding.
Thank you. So I think the esteemed panel has really explained very well what is happening in the smart factory space. I would actually like to take it one step further. So what about the devices or the automotive vehicles or anything that is inherently connected but leaving out of a factory in India and going to different places around the country as well as around the globe? For example, it is well known now today our EV two-wheeler companies like TVS, Ola, and so on are already exporting to multiple countries, and they're inherently connected, right? So like that, we also have these automotive OEMs and even device makers send out devices to different parts of the country where they might have to really equip the vehicle or their device with a different M2M connectivity network. So I think that is something that is close to our heart, and we have started enabling local profiles for the globe and really empowering and doing our small part when it comes to the automotive life cycle, so that for the vehicles that are exported, they don't have to go through a nightmare of a supply chain and a terrible broken onboarding experience. So I think we are truly playing our part when it comes to building in India for the world, in the connectivity sense of the word.
Absolutely. I like that. Building for the world from India, right? And best of luck to yourselves and many other ecosystem players which are doing that exactly. So as I always said, the winners of tomorrow are going to come from India, and we really believe that.
Let me add to Mr. Karan. This embedded SIM plays a very important role where you can have the connectivity from more than one operator. And if the signal of one operator goes down, it will automatically switch over to another operator, and the platform will play a very important role. This cellular connectivity is will connect the devices, but where the devices will be registered and whether the connectivity is working or not, registration, security, and so many other features will be provided by the platform. And platform is very important, and it should be based on standards and should have open interfaces.
Absolutely. So, like there are always two sides of a coin. We all spoke about the value that can be created, and there's substantial value. We all agree, and we spoke about many actual realized value cases as well. But there's the other side of it. The more value you are creating with Industry 4.0, there is also more value at risk because that is getting powered from there. So, may I request your thoughts, Mr. Arumugam, in terms of how do you see the cyber or security aspects around Industry 4.0 and how important they are in the conversation?
Industry 4.0 largely deals with a huge amount of data. See, as you know, it's a digital transformation, so huge amount of traffic of data. So you have now the 5G, so latency is low. So when the traffic of data, you know, every hour we are getting about 30 to 40,000 cyber attacks. Happens in every network. So we have to have a serious implementation of firewall and host of protective nuances. Largely, all these servers which are being used, particularly the devices, IIoT, etc., we need to do a penetration test. We have to do a periodical test on what kind of cyber attacks that can be done. In other words, we are mocking certain amount of cyber attacks on the system to evaluate how it is sustainable to these attacks. So these tests has to be done very periodically and should be recorded. And now that they have built a lot of cyber security platforms which are AI driven, which means if one particular attack happens to your system, it will assume what kind of attacks that probably can happen. It will do a preventive maintenance. So this kind of a AI platform have come. So we need to implement it. And another major problem is once an attack happened, as he says, a downtime of about 1 hour, so much of productive loss. But in terms of a cyber attack, it can reverse the entire plant and machinery. See, I have an opportunity to implement IIoT system for a large automotive company. While we do that, we have ensured that every component that we have chosen is from a very high quality, which is so much foolproof in terms of any leakage or cyber attacks probably can happen. So in terms of selection of your components, you should not be too budget driven. You got to spend. So quality components and quality measurement, and in terms of monitoring systems, it's all to be really planned well to avoid such larger attacks. See, now cyber attacks can happen on your FM radio. We have recently demonstrated in MIT as a part of one cyber attack. We have allowed a car to move, and we have hacked through the FM radio, and we have took control of the car chip. And when we instructed the driver to turn left, he was trying to turn left, the car moved right. When we were asked to apply brakes on it, and he's trying to put a brake, and acceleration is getting higher. We have traumatized the driver by just getting into the FM channel. So cyber attack can come through in multiple channels. So, and nowadays the number of systems that people use in the floor and from home and mobile, all these things have got a huge cyber attack possibility. People can enter through this mobile and get into your system. So what kind of preventions that we are going to do is most important. It is worth of an investment in terms of cyber security in Industry 4.0, without which building a network and really deploying it into larger industry and network of operations, actually I 4.0 is a connected system. It's not an silos of operations, it's a connected system. So one end of the attack can lead to multiple. So we got to ensure that a proper device is being used, and we have chosen the right platform to prevent, and periodical monitoring and penetration test would prevent from major attacks.
Super. No, thanks for sharing the thoughts. I think he wanted to add. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. These device manufacturer have to play a critical role. In fact, no, this vulnerability management policy and software updates, which are the key for the devices, even the smartphones are getting the updates time to time. The platform should be able to find out which are the devices which are not getting updates from the last 2 years, 3 years, or 4 years, and which the devices which becomes older and older and are not getting software updates, they becomes vulnerable for the network, and the entire network can be hacked from there. In fact, the labeling of the devices are also very important. And for this, the NCCS Bangalore, they are developing the ITSAR, and we have released 3 documents on IoT security. That is, one is the code of practice, another one National Trust Center, and third one is the security by design for IoT device manufacturers. They are on TEC website, and I would request the members can download and go through those documents, and the recommendations of those documents will become the part of the ITSAR for testing and certification.
Sure,
Thank you.
absolutely. Thank you.
I think just to add on, IoT of course needs a lot of security, and OT security is very, very important. But with the private network coming into being, the most important thing is, as I said, it's a private network is a secure network, because it's a network which is created for that particular plant. Because in a conventional way, what we actually do today is that we put an industrial Wi-Fi, which works actually in a free band spectrum. And of course, you have internet all across. The moment you have internet, of course, there is security problems would be there. Here, in the case of a private network, you will do a firewalling at the WAN end itself. Once you do the firewalling at the WAN end, of course, your porous mechanism getting into the security piece is taken care of. And that's the reason a private network is a much more successful network for any smart factory to run. Because what sir was talking about, that the factory can go for a complete toss, or the driver can go for a complete toss. So factory, if it goes for a complete toss, when you have a security attack or a hack is come in, this will be completely, it will be a nightmare. So with a private network, that's a big plus which comes into being.
Absolutely. Now, this is wonderful. I think the kind of conversation we had here, it's absolutely outstanding. While we would like to continue the conversation, I also understand that we are running slightly behind time. So just last question, which is more like a fire side question. So one single question, 10 seconds to answer. Now we have spoken about Industry 4.0 and various aspects around it, right? So if you were a venture capitalist which had, let's say, $10 million to invest, one thing that you would want to invest in, and we'll go around. So if you are all venture capitalists and you wanted to invest in one area, one theme, one domain in Industry 4.0, where would you invest in? We'll start from you, Mr. Nagpal, and we'll come in this side.
Just a telco-agnostic connectivity management platform that's really breaking down the barriers.
Perfect. Thank you.
The platform, as well as the standard-based platform and the open interfaces, as well as the device security.
App which can make all machines talk to each other, even old, new, without anything, in terms of it needing new devices. That's something that I would invest in.
Absolutely. Convert those devices.
I think connectivity at the drop of a hat, that's most important. With a secure tunnel, that's the whole piece. That's the hallmark of the success which will come.
Thank you.
I think I will invest on personal diagnosis, which is going to be vital. I think Industry 4.0 doesn't come only industry, it also has a huge impact on health. So I would like to do it on.
Wow, wonderful. So for those of you in the audience, those of you who are in the audience who are looking for new business ideas, you just got one, and you also got your investors here. So thank you so much, esteemed panelists, for a wonderful and insightful session. I personally learned a lot through this conversation. Thank you so much. Just to summarize, what we discussed is that there is a significant opportunity, of course, on Industry 4.0. The use cases span across industries. We spoke about medical, healthcare, infrastructure, and so on and so forth. We also spoke about themes around communication being a foundation, on which you have to build everything else. And Mr. Roy spoke about that. And how do you avoid splinterization of Industry 4.0? Because that probably would lead to suboptimal outcomes for all the participants which are out there. Mr. Kumar has picked up on two important points. One was on standards and interoperability. While we are all going in for this, we don't want this to become an area which is, again, divided and not interoperable. So we want to work on that. And also AI on IoT. So AI, IoT, the terminology that you brought out, I think that summarizes it very, very well. When I go to the theme that you mentioned, Mr. Bawa, you spoke about the actual value cases on this on the smart factories and the assurance you gave to all the innovators which are out there today, saying that, guys, we are open for business, the technology is all there, come, let's play, let's innovate, and we are right there with you. So that was quite heartening to hear. We heard Mr. Nagpal speak a lot about how this is now going beyond just the factories, right? And now that is pretty much getting incorporated as part of everything you do. So all the machines talking to each other and you building it up together. And that too in a way which is quite open in nature. And I love that model when he mentioned saying we are innovating for the world, but right here from India. So that's absolutely a big takeaway for me. And finally, what you mentioned in terms of when you started out, you spoke a lot about capacity building and training. I think we couldn't cover that topic when you mentioned a substantial training being done by your organization. And also how we need to defend the value that we are creating on Industry 4.0 using all the themes that you mentioned. So this was absolutely outstanding. Thank you, esteemed panelists, for your time today, and hope to meet you soon again. Thank you.